stand tall. Words are blades that never fall. Debate like warriors brave. Every thought we give and save. Through the noise we cut clean. Spirited minds sharp and keen. With a spark that lights the night. Join us in this epic fight. Welcome to the Spartan arena, where minds clash and thoughts gleam. In the heat of every word, truth and insight will be heard. Buckle up and take your stance. In this arena there's no chance to escape the vibrant lore. Diving deep and search for more. From heartfelt talks to fierce debates, we explore what fate creates. Side by side we seek the light. In the dark our minds ignite. Welcome to the Spartan arena, where minds clash and thoughts gleam. In the heat of every word, truth and insight will be heard. Heard. Will be heard. Will be heard.
Welcome to the spot. It's time to ignite. Oh yeah. Operation Hangout. The feeling's just right. Chilling with the crew. We're ready to groove. Opinions flying high. Come on, let's move. Woo. Hang out all night long, all night. Laughing and debating, playing our song. Oh yeah. Share your thoughts, don't be shy. Don't be shy. Operation Hangout, let's reach for the sky. Let's fly. Pull up a chair, let's get in the zone. Voices blending smooth like a funky trombone. Oh yeah. Topics from the heart, making us think. With a twist and a shout, raise up your drink. Cheers. Hang out all night long, all night. Laughing and debating, playing our song. Oh yeah. Share your thoughts, don't be shy. Don't be shy. Operation Hangout, let's reach for the sky. Let's fly. Bring it down, shake it up, feel the beat. With every word we share, the circle's complete. Woo. Living loud, think the crowd, that's what we do. Oh yeah. Join the club, come on through, we're waiting for you. Alright. Hang out all night long, all night. Laughing and debating, playing our song. Oh yeah. Share your thoughts, don't be shy. Don't be shy. Operation Hangout, let's reach for the sky. Let's fly. Hang out.
Well, guys, welcome back to another show, another stream, a new show on the network. We're calling this show Wrestling Talk with the Spartan. Of course, you guys know who I am, but if you don't know who I am, I'm going to introduce myself really fast. I am the Spartan, aka Peter. This is Spartan Institute Network. Of course, this is all your pop culture, all your information from the gray area to Spartan Arena to Gen X, whatever you want to know. This is the network you want to be on. First of all, I want to see how everybody is doing tonight. Give me in the chats. Give me a big thumbs up or see how you guys doing. I'm curious, how is everybody doing tonight? So before we get into the show, my co-host is running a little late. He'll be here in a few minutes. In the meantime, let's talk about the new show, Wrestling Talk with the Spartan. What is this show about? I'm kind of excited about this one because this was in the makings for a while, but we didn't really have a specific date when we're going to launch it. Excuse me. So, with unfortunate circumstances, Black David had to step away from the network for a little bit for some personal reasons. We're going to be doing a video later on. Wally's going to do a video kind of going over a little bit, not too personal, but some information for you guys to understand why David has to step away. But David will be back as soon as he can, and I'll let him explain his story when time comes. But in the meantime, what is Wrestling Talk with a Spartan? Is Wrestling Talk. We're talking about WWE. We're going to be talking about even WWF. We're going to be talking about AEW, New Japan, freaking Ring of Honor. I can't pronounce that freaking word. It'd be nice. All those nice stuff. And it's a lot of information we can go over. It is a lot of conversations pieces we can have. Like, we have a pay-per-view coming on tomorrow, actually. Saturday night main event. But people, I have got these conversations on the streams already. So we will still have some conversations, wrestling pieces on the Operation Hangout. It doesn't mean we're not going to be talking about wrestling stuff on Operation Hangout on Saturday night. But we will be speaking mostly wrestling stuff on Friday nights. I will do my darn best to be on every single Friday. But I do have a full-time job. Like most of you guys know, I am a full-time chef. So if work gets interfered, maybe Wally will run solo, or I have one of the guys fill in. I like having the shows with two guys on it. I think it flows the conversational piece a little better. But in the meantime, if anybody want to come on tonight, I'm going to drop the link now to see if what you know about wrestling. So here's the link. Is in the chats already. I will post my rules. Number one, I'll go over the first ones. Very simple. No personal attack, no threats, no slang, racist, anything that is against YouTube policy. Please skip it off the channel. I will boot your ass. So if you want to come on, simple rules, guys. R1, no smoking on camera, no eating on camera, dress appropriately, camera must be on, mic must be on. Very simple. If you'd like to join this conversation, please come on. So let's see how many of you guys are being updated with the wrestling stuff. I have been pretty updated with the wrestling stuff. So I've been watching lately. I started watching, I should say, Unreals. With Unreals, it makes me think and understand one major thing. Kayfabe is dead. It's not there anymore. And I think that mystique of Kayfabe is missing with modern wrestling because it was such a big part of wrestling at one point. Like, I'm going to use The Undertaker, the biggest kayfabe person that I know, because he never broke character in public. Wherever he was, wherever he did, wherever he doing, he was in a public eye, going to the airport, in the store, whatever. And if you saw him in public, he wasn't Mark. Man, what's his last name? I keep forgetting his last name. I'm gonna have to look it up really fast. Undertakers. Boom. I have it somewhere here. I know. I just can't remember. The real name is Mark William Kellaway. So he wasn't ever Mark William Kellaway in public eye till he actually retired. Hey, what's going on, Eric? My man, he is one of my wrestling gurus, so he's gonna love this show. So with the wrestling stuff, he became what year did he got inducted in the Hall of Fame? Oh man, I can't remember off my head. Let me look it up really fast because I don't remember what year. Eric, do you remember what year Undertaker was in the 2022 he was inducted. That was the day the character Undertaker he put that to rest. When he does a few appearances here and there, he comes as the American Badass Undertaker, not the Dead Man Undertaker, because he was going by the Undertaker was his main character, but Undertaker, the Dead Man, was one character, and the character as American Badass was the biker Undertaker. Two different characters. But the one thing is very fascinating about the Undertaker. He never broke character. Didn't matter where he was, what was going on, nothing. But he was also known as the locker room leader. He was judge, jury, and executioner in the locker room. If something went down, you had to face him. You had to explain yourself to him. What made me also very fascinating, he was big about giving back to the business. For example, the streak. The streak was something he protected very, very well. And that streak was something that he knew eventually he had to break. But I don't agree how he broke it. It wasn't up to him. He always, since he got to WWE, so he was originally wrestling, believe I remember correctly, I might be wrong, WCW, I think it was. And he was under a different character. I'm gonna actually look up all his wrestling names because I don't remember all of them off my head. To do here. Uh, wrestling, boom, boom. So when he got booted out from the company he was at, he they told him here we go. I remember he wrestled as Mark Calloway as tag team with and with Danny Spider. Yes, he did wrestle with his real name. And he wrestled not that much with his real name. It was very small, brief. Blah, blah, blah. I have WWF. I got our information right here. Give me a second. Scroll through this. Where is it? I know it's somewhere in here. Okay, early career. There we go. He wrestled originally in 1987 as WCCW World Classic Championship Wrestling. Later on as WWC. That's where they pretty much told him, yeah, you don't have it what it takes, kid. Yeah, find something else. Vince found out he was a free agent. So what Vince did? Called him up. And before he knew who it was, he answered his phone. And Vince goes, "Is this the Undertaker?" Yeah. That's how the Undertaker became the Undertaker. Over a phone call, Vince had an idea. You can say a lot about Vince McMahon. You can say he was a scumbag. You can say he was a horrible businessman. He was a horrible whatever. But he had a mind of a genius on his earlier years because he created a lot of characters. So after that, he got teamed up with Paul Bearer. and the mystique started. Fast forward years later, when later years with Vince, when I don't remember which WrestleMania was off my head, to be honest with you, he was asked to break the streak. And he says, sure, whatever, I give back to the business. That's what part of the game is. You have to give back to the business. Okay. It is what it is. Here we go. He took the spot of Cy Victor as one of the skyscrapers when Sid was injured. That is true. He did do that. So when Vince, I was saying, as Vince asked him to break the streak to Brock Lesnar, he was like, "Oh man, I don't know if this is right," but he has so much loyalty to Vince McMahon, because if it wasn't for Vince McMahon, he wouldn't be in the place he is now as the Undertaker. That's where it goes back to kayfabe. One thing Triple H has done, and we're going to have a conversation when it gets here with Vince McMahon era versus Triple H. They have their own little era, and their era was unique, and unique in a different way, because their era was different. Vince was more about the mystique, the big, bulky, He-Man cartoon characters almost. But that wasn't today's wrestling. I don't think Vince would understand that has changed. The gimmick had changed. The business have evolved to something different. Now, with the kayfabe, I think we all know at this time, yes, wrestling does hurt. Wrestling is somewhat real, but the outcome is predetermined. You cannot sit there and tell me you're jumping off a 10-foot cage. That shit is not gonna fucking hurt. And we've seen scenes like my favorite one, actually, Randy Orton. He's on the ground. And he goes, he wants to know if he's off camera or not. I'm like, dude, you kind of blew your cover, bro. So, and we see bloopers all the time. And stuff happens. Like recently, when was it a few months ago or a few weeks ago? I can't remember that Brock finally came back and he went to do like a slam on the foot and he wiped out. But he kind of like did a back roll, kind of like played it off. And that's part of the business. The business has evolved so much. Old school fans like Eric, who likes the era of the territorial era, it's gone. We have a little bit of now, very little of not territory, but different companies fighting each other now. You have AEW versus WWE. But these companies are also teaming up with other companies. That was ludicrous back in the day. Everybody had their own territory. You stay in your lane, I stay in my fucking lane. You stay in mind your business, I'm like, but they trade wrestlers, not officially. If the contract expired and they didn't like that contract, they were welcome to go somewhere else. But now, not all companies do this, but most companies have what's called a non-compete clause, 90 days. Eric started watching wrestling back in 1978. Damn. I wasn't even born yet. I'm just saying, I wasn't even born yet. But that era, they didn't have those clause back then. They didn't have that. And that tells you the difference of era. I don't think Vince, if he was still in charge, he would have done what he's done now. the kayfabe, it's a something that we also talk about to this day. Cody Rhodes. Cody is a unique character to me because he is a second generation, I believe. I might be wrong on that because most people don't know his real name is Cody Grentill Russell. I am butchering that. I apologize out there, Cody. If you're watching this, my bad, dude. But that is his real name. His father, anybody who know who his father is the American plumber. Everybody called him as Dusty Rose. I know he's a second generation. I don't think he's a third generation. But his brother was a wrestler. And that's the Dusty's youngest son. Yeah, he is one of his youngest son. I think he has 3 kids. Dusty had, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look that one up. He's okay. Son, I know he has Gold. Goldust was, yes, he has 2 sons. So Dusty Rose, or Goldust is one of them, who is currently signed with AEW. And I think he's going to finish his career in AEW because he's coming up towards the end of his career. Because yes, he has 2 kids, like you said. How old is this son of a bitch right now? He's 56, so he's getting up there in age, and he's not any younger. Dusty, aka Goldust, correct? So Goldust had an interesting career, in my opinion, because when he was in WWE, he would play a little flamboyant kind of character, a little bit of on the edge. And that's the difference about back then and now. Now, Cody is about 40. Actually, he's my fucking age. Huh, go figure. And he plays more as the American Nightmare. Original person who was American Nightmare was actually his brother, Goldust. When he first came on the scene, he was known as American Nightmare. And he went to his brother to ask him permission. It's kind of like a unwritten rule of wrestlers kind of asking permission to do stuff like that. Like using moves and all that nice stuff. And that is the thing that most of them do out of respect. Doesn't mean all of them do it, but most of them do that. So, by that said, Cody plays Cody. What I mean by that, when he's on TV, he doesn't play as Cody Rhodes. He plays as Cody, the real Cody. So there's no kayfabe. He's a married man. He has a daughter. He got into the business because his dad. That's all true. None of that. I blame the gimmick on Vince Russo. Why? Why do you blame Vince Russo? People give him shit, but you know Vince Russo wasn't as when he was in WWE. You cannot say, "Oh, yeah, yes, Vince had a lot of career of it." But Vince Russo did do a lot of that. A lot of people blame Vince Russo for a lot of downfalls. And he was an asshole, the guy. He was in WCW. The reason WCW failed because of Russo. And that I can't deny that. But for the stuff he happened in WWF at the time, known now as WWE, it was all because of Russo. Yes, Vince came up with the idea, but who wrote the storyline mostly? Vince Russo. Not all of them. I'll give him only 50% credit on that. The other 50% I'll give it to Vince. Maybe it's less, but from what I understand, that's what I know. Again, I'm not no expert here, of course. All right, let's see what he says here. Because the Goldust character was Russo's idea, and I'm not denying that. But here's the thing, dude. It wasn't as people want to give shit for the character. people still tune every night to watch Vince. I'm assuming Goldust every night. If here's the thing, one thing I did learn over the years by doing podcasts, meeting wrestlers in person. If people are not talking about you in some shape or negative or positive, you are not doing something right. You might blame Russo for the bad ideas in your opinion, and that's legit. I respect that opinion 100%, Eric. But years later, we are still talking about the Goldust in WWE or WWF at the time that Russo created. It made money. It made us buy shirts. It made us to think about that character. The kayfabe back then. Back then, we didn't know Russo created that. We just thought that's who he was in real life. Roman Reigns. Everybody knows him as the tribal chief. Very good character. The longest WWE champion we had to date. I think it was like 3.5 or almost 4 years holding the title. That's insane to believe that. It blows your mind. But how much kayfabe you had to do? In real life, we know his name is Jimmy. But I think that a lot of old school fans of the old school era. I grew up in the era of the Attitude Era, the Rusev era, when Stone Cold came out and gave you the two middle fingers, stung you, or the best one of all. People tune into the Stone Cold Steve Austin era so much because that era he was able to tell his boss, "Go fuck yourself, beat the living shit out of your boss, and go back to work the next day." In reality, that's never gonna fucking happen, but it made you believe in that. It got you into it, and that was the difference. But when they pulled the curtain back, it changed everything. You stop believing. You start caring about the characters as much. Yes, they do get hurt. I feel bad when I see a wrestler, if you even want to call them wrestlers, because I think another problem with the wrestling of today's era, they go so fast. Not the storylines when they're in the ring. I think they need to slow it down a little bit. And I hear a lot of old school wrestlers. Maven is a great example. He has his own YouTube channel. Slow it down. When you're moving too fast, it's too hard to keep up with it. All right, Eric's on a roll tonight. I'm just saying, Dusty's already had a Legend Mal celebration priest WWF as signing as a tag team title holder. I'm not denying that. I'm not denying anything of that. But with Vince Russo making that character, he had him here. He blew him out of the water. Very simple. People forget when you're having conversations with people, anybody, I'm not talking about wrestling people like us right now having this conversation. We're having a conversation about Goldust. We're having a conversation about Cody Rhodes. We're having a conversation. That's what drives stuff. There's still people on everyday conversation pieces. If you didn't have the conversation piece, guess what? What's the point? I'll give you a great example, and I was going to speak about this later on the show. Thomas, I got his name here. I can't pronounce his fucking name. What is it? No. Thomas Chapel. I can't pronounce his name. So he was a big wrestler in the in NXT. Did a great run in NXT. And when they moved them to the main roster. He didn't do that well. And I was kind of disappointed, to be honest. And because I wasn't a fan of his stuff, a huge fan, because I liked his stuff back then. Hang on one second, guys. I got to take this really fast and make sure I'm getting a couple. All right. So I was saying, Thomas, to me, he was a great NXT wrestler. I think he did a great NXT run, a very, very, very good NXT run. But when they moved him to the main roster, something happened. He did not connect. I don't know, because he shaved his beard. Maybe that was it. The beard. I know they go through these changes. And the change wasn't there for him. Unfortunately, oh man, I have a hard time even putting this in words, because I do think he has the ability to do great things in a ring. And yes, he's a little bit up there in age. I'm not denying that. He's not a young buck. Where is he? I'm trying to find his age, because I don't even remember his age. Find his age really fast. Age. Oh, he's my age actually. He's 40 also. So he's technically on almost on borrowed time. But the writers these days don't have what it takes, what they used to have. I know Eric is shit about Vince Russo, but Vince Russo knew how to write a good story. Vince had knew a good story. A lot of people don't like the way Triple H writes the stories now these days, because he's COO, creative. I want to agree and disagree at the same time. I think he needs a lot of work still, but I think it's better than what we had in a long time. When Vince was the main character, I mean, a main writer, when he was in there, towards the end, he kind of lost what wrestling was. He didn't listen to the fans. And that's one thing Triple H is doing. The benefit about H is one major thing. He was a wrestler first. Then he became Office. Then he became Control. He, even as much people want to give him shit, say, oh, he fucked himself into the business, literally, but he didn't. He earned his stripes. How many of you guys remember the curtain call? Russo was a good as a hot shot, but he sucked as a booker. Really? I don't want to say he sucked as a booker, but if you put him in the right company and the right tools, I think he could do very well. But he also crashed and burned a lot too at the same time. It's kind of 50-50 here. So I think he was really good in WWE, WWF back then, but I don't think he got the right tools to succeed in WCW. Any writer, any booker, you give him too much power, they go ape power crazy, and I think that's what happened there. He had way much too much power, too much everything, and he crashed and burned. So then, what was that? With Champo, I think he gave him the right tools and everything. I know they tried all different stuff. Like a tag team didn't work out, a single, all this stuff. I think what's going to happen, personally, this is my personal opinion, and I'll wait to while it comes on. Whoever wants to join us later, saying we'll see their opinion about. They're my opinion right now with Ciampa. I think he's going to take a little break. I think he's going to take the 90-day non-compete clause to kind of not rediscover him, kind of recharge his batteries a little bit because they have a very harsh schedule. But once he's done recharging his battery after 90 days, I think he's already in negotiations with the AEW. I think he's going to show up in AEW. There are a bunch of other characters who were there. Let's see what Eric has here really fast. I will give him credit for granting major heels heat with WCW and NWA and TNA. The guy knows how to piss people off, and sometimes that's all you need. What was I saying? Man, my brain just took a shit with that comment. With AEW, I think he's gonna go to AEW after 90 days. You have some other characters who they left WWE. Like one of the members of the Shield. The Shield was a interesting gimmick, in my opinion. Something different, that we haven't seen in a while. And but not all of them did a good job with it. Not all of them got that push they wanted. Like, let me get that name up here really fast because I have my notes here. Dean Ambrose, also known as John Moxley. So Moxley did not like how his character was going. I will give him that. He was the crazy, psychotic person. And he asked for his release. We all know that. And at first he was thinking about doing a little indie scene. But he didn't. That's the time that AEW came around. With AEW coming around, he literally went with it, and he's doing very well with AEW. I'm wondering if Ciampa or Tommy Ciampa, whatever his fucking name is going to be the same character thing. All right, let's see what Eric has to say. Dean and Andrews spinoff room the Shield first. I don't understand your comment, Eric. I'm sorry. You confused me. Dean Ambrose, he did split off of the Shield. Yeah, if that's what you mean. That I'm not denying that. But he was the first one who stepped away from the Shield. The first one was actually Seth Rollins with the chair shot against Roman Reigns, if you remember correctly. But I do think if Thompson goes to AEW, he might have a better fighting chance there. Different writers, different characters. You're good. I think you just need a refresh of batteries there. So let's switch gears here for a second. Let's talk about Vince versus Triple H. Vince and Triple H. Oh man, Vince was in a different era. A completely different era because Vince was in an era with the Attitude Era at the time. I'm not Attitude, the Territory Era. And it was funny because this has been said multiple times that Vince's father shook each person's hand and says, I'm not going to compete against you. You have nothing to worry about. We will, you stay in your lane, I'll stay in my lane, whatever. Eventually, when senior, junior, whatever it is, bought the company from his father, didn't have to keep that agreement. It was a handshake only. Handshake means nothing on paper. He competed against every single person, including Paul Heyman, and he put every single person out of business. That's one. All right. When all these wrestlers are coming up from the indie scenes and wrestling for him, he unliked the big guys, the big ones, over the top kind of wrestlers. And he kind of struggled at one point because later on, we knew in the 90s that gimmick kind of died off. WWE stayed still with the cartooniest fake gimmicks versus with I'm sorry, not AEW, with WCW did more liberal realistic characters. And that was the big catch 22 in my opinion. They created something different, something new, something extreme. And then they also started doing some more realistic stuff, like when Stone Cold left WCW and went to WWF, trying to kick your boss's ass is another one. And then we're just going over a couple of topics. That isn't going to be the only kind of intro of the show. In 1984 is when Vince Jr. officially took over the Federation. And I think that's accurate, I believe. I don't remember the date. Damn, it was 1 year before I was born. But he, and all people, created so many icon characters. Hogan, Warrior, hate him or love him, that's a whole different story. Macho Man, Ryder Piper, and the list goes on and on and on. As years went on, he, like I said earlier, he lost the touch over the fans. Okay. And like I said earlier, Triple H was a fan, was a wrestler, was an office person, and now became creative. People think he would do great. And I do think he's doing a pretty damn job so far trying to clean all this mess up because he has a lot of cleanup from his father-in-law. Because the last couple of years, WWE did not do well, in my opinion. The biggest mess he had to clean up when Roman Reigns had the title for, oh man, was it 3.5 years? 4? How the fuck do you get the title of someone like that? Oh, it's right here. He had the belt for 1,316 days straight. The longest reigning title person ever to date. Hogan came from AWA. That is correct. Piper came from NWA mid Atlantic. So here, all this is right. I'm not denying that anything ever. But if it wasn't Vince's vision, I don't think we'll have what we have right now with those characters. I'm not denying those names were there. I don't deny that. I don't deny the whole senior thing firing him because he wanted to do Rocky 3 and Junior brought him back and blew up Hulkamania. You can't deny that. Without Vince McMahon Jr. vision of a Hulkamania, I don't think he would have done it. That's when I think Hogan was good. I don't think he was anything extremely good. I think he was a great role model for kids at the time. I think he was keyword at the time. I think he was a good businessman backstage because he knew the politic game better than anybody. But I don't think he was a technical wrestler. He had a couple moves he did over and over. He finished it with a pointer, a couple punches, and a leg drop as a finisher. It's nothing really technical about the leg drop like that. If you really want to think about it, Piper had a good mouth on him, and Vince knew that. He knew how to turn heads and piss people off. He knew to push the envelope so far on the other edge. You're going to be at school the next day, and you're going to vouch for this, Eric. Dude, did you see what happened last night? Whoa, you won't believe what happened. And yes, Eric, I agree again. Hogan was a real big attraction over in Japan because he was humongous. People don't realize how big the son of a bitch was back in his prime. He was a humongous guy. Big. Too big sometimes. But going back to Vince versus Triple H. Triple H had to do a lot of cleaning up to do. He had a roster that was saturated, way oversaturated, and you had to somehow clean that up. That's why a lot of releases happened when he was coming board. Zack Ryder is one of them. I met Zack Ryder personally. Seems an okay guy. I asked him on a show, so he told me no. So, fuck you. He told me he didn't have time. So whatever. Okay, and if you watch Hogan's match in Japan, he had the ring skill. You don't see what he is in the States. I'm not arguing that, but I don't think he was a technical wrestler, Eric. I think he was just an average wrestler like everybody else. He was not technical like some other wrestlers. Like Rey Mysterio. All right, let's get this guy in here. He's finally one of my guys came in. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for our president. Mr. President, how you doing tonight, my man?
I'm a little tired, a little beat up, but I saw you were kind of going solo tonight, so I figured let me just jump on real quick.
Yeah, while I was joining, he sent me a message, but I couldn't really check it because I was trying to do the show, of course.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. Do you think Hogan was a technical wrestler?
Not in WWF. He could be. If you watch any of his Japan footage from like the 70s and early 80s, yeah, I mean, he had some moves. I mean, he could do all the stuff, but that's certainly not what WWF wanted from him. But he could certainly do it. I think if you were going to be of any value in Japan, with the exception of maybe like Andre the Giant or something like that, I think you had to have a certain amount of technical ability as well as the more realistic wrestling with, there were a lot of shoots out there. So, but yeah, just look up any Hogan Japan footage and you'll see
I'm
a
not
guy.
disagreeing he has some technical. I'm not, but the technicality, like say, like a Rey Mysterio, for example, I don't think he was too night and day.
Well, I don't think Rey Mysterio is that much of a, or luchadors in general. I don't look at those guys as technical wrestlers.
Really?
No. I mean, I think for me, technical wrestler is more coming off from a more amateur background. So someone's really good at locks, submission holds, different maneuvers that way. Um, More so than just aerialists, um, coming off the top rope or something like that. So I think the technical wrestlers, again, I think there's a sense of realism that they bring to it that make you think it's real sport more so than entertainment. At least that's my view, anyway. And I think there's a few guys who operate that space. So,
Hmm.
like Ricky Steamboat, I've always thought was, certainly great. That Bob Backlund might be one of the best ever because even though he wasn't um, great on the mic, had mic skills, the guy was a real shooter. I mean, he could, he was a national wrestling champion. He can, you can say a Kurt Angle, same thing. I mean, these guys, knew how to not only handle themselves in the ring, whether if the match went to a shoot or not. These guys can get down, technically, to hold you down. So at least that's my view of technical wrestling. It's not that you can do, a few somersaults in the air and things of that nature, or jumping over the top rope onto a bunch of people. I don't look at that necessarily technical wrestling in my view. Um, Nor it is just being a brute and smashing and body slamming people. Um, but again, if you want to talk about guys who might have been like B card wrestlers, like Brian Blair, I remember was a pretty good um, technical wrestler. Ric Flair, when he wanted to be, was an excellent wrestler. You know, so yeah, I think, and even Piper, because I know he had done some things with Ric Flair, and he could show a certain level of technical skill. But again, he was known more so for his rage and his punches and just his melee, attacks on people. But a lot of these guys could get down, depending on the promotion or where they were, if it called for it. But once it went more towards the entertainment route, as far as being measured on technical ability,
Well,
Bret Hart. I mean, excellence of
some people say
execution. That's another
the
guy.
two most technical wrestlers ever was Bret Hart and Eddie Guerrero, and I kind of agree with that.
Um, I don't know.
Kurt Angle's on the list too, but those are like the number two names that always come
I
in
mean, I
people's
would
head.
put who's the guy who deleted himself and his wife?
Chris
The
Benoit.
Yeah, Brent Benoit was up. I put him up there. Like I said, Kurt Angle might be the best one. Um, Again, you're talking about an Olympic gold medal champion who again brought a lot of ability. He could do it all. In the ring. So I got to put him in that category. Also, like I said, Ricky Steamboat is on my Mount Rushmore of as far as in ring mat wrestlers ever. He could pull it off. So D Malenko. I mean, look at some of his stuff. I mean, terrific. I mean, so there's, like I said, there's a laundry list of guys to say
So
who's like the best. I don't know.
the list I have, and this is coming from a Google search I did. The number one is Bret Hart is number one.
Mhm.
Kurt Angle's in second place. Eddie Guerrero's in third. Dean
Malenko,
Malenko, thank you, and Daniel
Daniel Bryan. Yeah,
Brian, thank you. He's
up
on
there
the
pretty
last
good.
place, fifth,
Yeah,
top five.
yeah.
Yeah. So Wally, what's up, man?
What's going on?
So what you got on this, my man?
Depends where y'all at with the conversation.
We're talking about right now who's the most technical wrestler that, in our own opinion.
Who's the most technical wrestler?
Mm-hmm.
Well, as far as what I'm hearing so far, well, I guess technical wrestler is very dependent on what you consider technical.
Correct.
I agree.
So, yeah, I don't know what everyone's idea of technical wrestler really means.
Well, what would yours be?
Well, if I had to put it in a wrestler, I mean, some of the names that you guys did mention are very good as technical wrestlers. Pretty much, mostly not the heavy set guys. in most cases. Like just if we're talking about just in a broad spectrum, like most technical wrestlers are not very heavy set guys. They're usually like mid body, decent,
Mhm.
guys that can move, work well, not do anything to overly botch. In some cases, or then pretty much not your everyday general like heavy set dude. So yes, the Eddie Guerreros, the Bret Harts, and any amongst them that are in the same category as that, in more cases than not. Um, that's how I look at it because technical wrestling ultimately I look at it more so as a transition of an art or a transitional art because pretty much when you're being technical it's like the whips, just the cadence of just holding someone, making sure you do the right move at the right place, stuff like that, just being very simple in a sense, right? In most cases they're not. So like for instance, like Ric Flair, very technical, standard case guy, right? Doesn't anything really heavy per se, but he's very technical because he has to break you down. Same thing, Kurt Angle and a lot of other people, right? So yeah, but ultimately all in all, pretty much the same names that you said: Bret Hart's, Eddie Guerrero, a lot of other people. Chris Benoit, even though he brought more of the powerhouse in his style,
Mhm.
but he definitely has that technical and that submission prowess, which makes him very technical. Um, Daniel Bryan for sure. Who else? I mean, yeah, pretty much most of those guys that you mentioned. Those are very seamless technical guys.
Yeah. I would also add just the ability to do certain maneuvers, you know, whether it be suplexes, arm drag takedowns, you know, back by. I mean, just like it's
Yeah, I
like
mean, yeah,
if you're
those
gonna
are pretty
teach
much.
like how do you do certain moves or whatever, like the way these guys execute these moves
Yeah,
like it's textbook, like
yeah.
Ricky Steamboat's arm drag. If you ever seen it, it's like it's like beautiful. Like you couldn't do it any better than he does it. So I
Oh,
think
I'm
that's just
agreeing.
like
I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, guys. But I think Eddie is a very good technical wrestler. To be honest with you, I think
oh he is. Oh yeah.
Well,
even
no, but
Rey
that's what I'm
Mysterio.
saying. Like the idea of technical, it's really like that's what I'm saying. Cause like most people are saying it's broad. Cause again, Eddie comes from lucha libre, so lucha libre is very technical wrestling. It's not really from heavy set dudes because of course of the high flying and everything else that goes along
Mhm.
with it. That's what I'm
I
saying.
always
Like
enjoy that the high
Mhm.
flying kind of wrestling.
or I say luchadors are more likely to be more technical than anyone else because of the fact that they have to be very extra careful with how they do their
Mhm.
high flying because they have the most technical awareness to have to when it comes to their body. Because again, you gotta think of it like this. For instance, like let's say hypothetically, like so for instance, perfect example I'm gonna use here, right? Undertaker. Undertaker, when he goes and he runs, goes to the other ropes, runs up to then fly over. That is a very technical move. But for his heavy set, you would think he would never be able to complete that,
Mhm.
right? But that's what I'm saying. Like someone that is of an Eddie or someone in that realm of a high flyer, they can have a better time with that because they can easily move with ebony and flow
Mhm.
with that.
Okay,
So that's more technical for them.
Yeah. I
let me
guess
ask
my
you
only
guys a
thing
question.
with the high flyers is like a lot of those moves seem so contrived. Like you have to literally just wait for the move to kind of happen, at least. And the guy's kind of holding, and you could say like the guy's just waiting for the guy to do his backflip or move or whatever, and he just kind of goes with the move. Like
Well,
I said,
yeah, but my
I think
thing is
that
that's
yeah,
what I'm saying. But there's an NBA flow with that because even again, I'll even use Undertaker again as a heavy set dude. Even when he walks on the ropes and then goes down and just hits you in the back, it's not like it's technical because of how he did it. Even though in a similar sense, it's just like, hey, look, move the ropes, hit his leg, do something. It's easy to counter that, but it's like just to have the wherewithal with the balance and everything. That's still
yeah.
technical in a way, even with a mix of power.
But even that's a perfect example. Like I wouldn't count that as I would call it something else. I would say
Well, yeah, but
skill or
I'm just
whatever.
saying,
But
like, for
no,
him, for
I
like
hear
who
I
he is
hear
in
what
his
you're
build,
saying.
that would be technical for me in
Correct.
his build. Because
But
again,
I
if
guess
let
for
that
me
be
more
someone else,
technical.
they'll do
Yeah,
something way different.
gotcha. But again,
Yeah.
to me, more technical is more mat. It's more like I say, going from the amateur wrestling, like what you would see on a wrestling mat. more so
more
than
graphic.
again
It was talking about
the
just strictly the
aerial
match.
flips and things
I
of
mean,
that
but that's
nature.
what I'm saying. The idea of technical is very different. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're talking about true blue American wrestling, then yeah, you're talking about the mat. But that's what I'm saying. When it comes to a luchador, that's different. So that's what I'm saying, because a luchador has to work from the mat and from the sky.
No doubt.
So
Yeah. So let me ask you guys a question. Before you guys came on, I was going over Vince McMahon era versus Triple H era now. So what is you guys' opinion on that?
Honestly, I don't know. To be honest, I haven't watched or been invested in wrestling probably for the last 2 years. As far as the current product, I mean, I know of the news or whatnot. My daughter now, she is all in. Like, she watches every pay-per-view. She's really into the women's division. And so she could definitely give you more of an update on the current state of wrestling, certainly under the Triple H regime, than I would. I know it's back. I know they started doing Saturday night main events again. And I know they've moved networks. And, on the service, it seems like it's going in a good direction. Now, seen some people, have blog posts about whether or not is it dying or not, or what have you. But I don't know if wrestling has an additional ceiling to go to. I mean, McMahon, love him or hate him or whatever, he brought wrestling from, again, the territorial age to mainstream. Saturday night main event, when we saw it in '85, that was game changing. WrestleMania was game changing. It was on, you had Hulk Hogan on the color of a cover of Sports Illustrated. So again, it's hard to replicate. I guess the ascent of wrestling to where it became the number one watch content for guys between like 18 and 35. Like, it was competing like with Monday Night Football, which is like an American institution. I don't know if wrestling occupies that space anymore. And it's hard. I don't know where you go from like, if you're already kind of up there, I don't know how much further could you take it. That's going to, gather a new audience that hasn't been gathered before. Because all the expansion, not only in the United States, but also around the world. Vince had a lot to do with that, as much as I may despise, probably the man personally, and I'm not going to go all into that. But but he is responsible for good or bad, because there's still, if you're a territory guy, you despise Vince McMahon. And I don't necessarily blame you for that, because he got rid of your territorial, more realistic shoot style wrestling, as he kind of, he always used that derogatory term when talking about especially Southern wrestling, called it wrestling. But you had a lot of people who loved wrestling, and he gave you Doink the Clown and, the Gobbledygooker and all these other silly persons, and took away like the more athletic sports like wrestling that a lot of people, certainly if you were in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, that's what you kind of grew up on. And so, so I don't know if there's another stratosphere for wrestling to go in terms of its popularity, or trying to go after an audience. I mean, the audience is kind of baked in, but I mean, back in the 80s, you had wrestling cartoons on Saturday mornings, right? I mean, you had, even just commercials. Like, when was the last time you've seen a WWE wrestler do a mainstream commercial?
I don't
Like a
have cable,
Coca-Cola.
so I don't watch commercials, so I cannot answer
But
that
I'm just
question.
saying, but just, I mean, you're watching the sports game, you're watching whatever, and the spot comes on, and this wrestler's advertising a certain product of some kind.
I think
Like,
last time, if I remember correctly, was Macho Man with a Slim Jam.
that was in the 80s. So
they did that. They did other people with Slim Jim, and they did others amongst other products. So they're out there.
But I'm saying, but in the last 5-10 years, dude, I mean,
Yes.
are there
Recently, literally recently.
I'm
they're out
asking.
there.
I'm
No,
not.
yeah.
That's not a
I'm
rhetorical
letting you know
question.
right
I'm literally
now.
asking.
Yeah, Paul, I'm letting you know with confidence. It is out there. It's out there.
Okay.
They got commercials, brand deals that you got to start literally out there doing commercials right now to this day.
Yeah, because ever since they went to Netflix, they have branded the shit out of Raw.
Well, I'm gonna say it like this, right? So, Paul, just to give you a good visual, You know, like if you watch a boxing ring or like an MMA ring, right? If you
Mhm.
see the sponsors on the floor,
Mhm.
on the mats, visualize that right now within WWE because they have that now in some content.
I got that. I'm not talking about
Well, yeah.
sponsors.
I'm just saying, like, as far
I'm
as content,
talking
like,
about on a Saturday morning or doing a Monday night football game or doing some mainstream primetime television show
uh,
that you have a WWE wrestler doing a mainstream commercial with a mainstream
they'll be
product.
out there. Yeah, they'll
All
be
right.
out there.
Like I said, I haven't seen it, but I'll take your word for it if it's
It'll
there.
be out there. I mean, look,
So go ahead, Wally. I'm sorry.
yeah. I mean, look. As far as how do I look into the vast world of Triple H era versus Vince era? For me personally, this is like that. I had a conversation with someone, and we pretty much had some words, not ultimately some heavy words, other than well him putting some words on it, but pretty much we had the idea of expectations, right? And I was sort of like pretty much talking like where WWE is, where it has been. It's been the top dog in the in the wrestling entertainment of all the other wrestling corporations. But my thing was in that conversation, which I end up having to realize is I do have to look at this and say, we are in a clean sweep of what WWE once was. Vince is not here. He ain't running it. He ain't writing the scripts, or he ain't, guiding the scripts. However, he's just not here, period. It is Triple H. It is under TKO as an ownership with UFC. So right now, the atmosphere of what WWE is on a different market from what Vince once ruled. And, as far as the different times. But I will sit here and say, like, looking at the two different eras of when you have Vince versus now when you have Triple H, right now, I can't sit here and say, right, truly, looking back at the whole conversation that me and the other guy had, I can't sit here and ultimately trash Triple H as much as I do want to, because personally, I believe there are just certain stories like you can't make this up, but it is what it is, right? Because again, a lot of people said a lot of things to Vince, like, Vince, you're going to destroy your father's business. And lo and behold, it hasn't been gone since. He has done what he's done in his own ideals and his own vision. And regardless how you like it, one way or the other, it has succeeded. And it still leaves memorable storylines within people's heads every day when you go back and go look at just classical matches from yesteryear and everything else of that nature, depending on the timing of when you watch wrestling. The biggest thing I think with a lot of people now is because of realizing now Triple H has it, it's sort of tough because now you're looking at what wrestling is now under him, and it's like the memorable moments or the moments that you think that should happen or the certain matches that should happen is not happening, and it's like, man, what am I doing with my life just sitting here? Which then convinces people to then go elsewhere, which is now right now people going to AEW, people may be going back to watching TNA, MLW, and any other many out there, New Japan Wrestling, Noah Wrestling, all this other stuff. So when things like this tend to happen, it's sort of, really puts people in a bind because they don't know what really looked like what it was back then. Because if they knew what happened with Vince, it was pretty much the same thing. People were saying the same criticism. Now it's on Triple H, but Triple H has got his feet. He's just getting his feet wet. He's out there right now. You may not love everything. There's some things you will respect that he done or he guided with the writers amongst them, but you sort of do feel like, I mean, at least for me, let me say that. For me, I feel like it hasn't hit that point where he's like on the pinnacle where he's saying, okay, the memorable moments are not locking in and you're really enjoying the ride to the point that you don't have nothing to really say. And a lot of people these days that if you look at wrestling one way or another, they're really looking at this because I know there's some comments that certain wrestlers have made saying, wrestling wasn't something you categorize or looked at or, say, put ratings on or something like that. But I'm like, you do fail to realize these fans hold on to these like memories. And because of that, people are always looking for the next memory to actually have, because then they would love to tell the next generation, you think you know wrestling until you actually watch this. And that's with anything. That's almost with anything. So these memories, these moments, they're so much, because I remember moments, especially in the later years. No one didn't thought Edge was going to come back ever in wrestling. He was done. He was retired. But when he came back in that Royal Rumble, I know people's hairs on their bodies started lifting up, and the whole world was energized, because they were like, whoa, there ain't no way Edge is back. There ain't no way. And because that moment, because that feel, because that energy, because the vibes, it's some of the things that people constantly love about wrestling. That is the part of entertainment that I think is the real thing that people want. Now it sort of seems like the entertainment that they're getting is just, it's just lackluster. Because honestly, if you told me today, you can tell me right now, we all know this right now, right? Wrestling is based upon who wins, not because of the physicality. Based upon who wins, wrestling is fake. Someone is winning. That's all there is to it. They're working it out in the back of the scenes. Who wins, who loses, all that stuff. But one thing that you can never destroy from a person's IQ when it comes to wrestling is those moments that will be remembered for the rest of their lives. And I think that's the thing. It's like people are hopping to other wrestling promotions looking for that grand moment that really impacts, like that really makes them remember this is what wrestling's all about. This is what it's all about when you see it, when you see it, when you visualize it, when you see it being done in the creative story that it's made out of. So the fact to a lot of people, wrestling right now is in a place where it's like in reset mode. You're looking, anyone can take the grass broom. Last time I talked to David, it was said that as far as wrestling, right, AEW topped WWE for the year last year. Literally, 2025, they topped them over. You would think that would not be even the case, but that's what happened. Now,
granted, it was the other way around, actually.
No, AEW was the one that topped WWE over.
Based on what?
Just based on everything you could think of, matches, just how things were done, the sales. People.
So what, on revenue or ratings, or
just the overall? Because I can't really tell you anything. I'm taking it as it was everything that they've done, as far as I know, right? Now, granted, money may be different as far as revenue and pay-per-views and all that. That's for sure. But as far as just, I'm just going to leave it on wrestling and storytelling. I'm going to leave it on that for most cases, because I don't know for sure. I'll have to look it up. But it's just that right there for a lot of people is big. And it's like, it's sort of just missing. Because it's like, honestly, yeah, you get these moments when you see these wrestlers come back and you see the oldie wrestlers and you're like, oh my God, my childhood. But at the same time, it's like, it ain't really the same no more. It's like how you put something in and you're teasing, but reality, the teasing doesn't even materialize. It doesn't really works. It just feels like it falls on dead ears, and it's like you're pivoting. So right now, like I was saying, like you really can give it to anybody, whoever has the best storytelling within wrestling, period, across the board. Like anyone can take the grass ring. It all depends on how everything's looking and how things playing out. Mm-hmm. So that's where I look at wrestling right now in the climate. But as far as if you're questioning where is Triple H right now versus where Vince was, my thing is this. Vince had a lot of great moments that he gave to the people. Like him, hate him, everything else in between, because of all the stories that are now coming out based upon him and everything that was going on in WWE back in his time frame. But one thing, again, like I said, because of those moments, those are just too much heavy. They're just too heavy of what they have already delivered. With Triple H, right now, I've literally been able to sit back and say, because of that conversation that I had with the guy I once, talked with amongst the whole wrestling thing, I really have to sit back and be like, I can't really give him that much smoke, because let's be honest, he's pretty much in business shoes where he was before. Being criticized, people telling him he's going to fail, all this other stuff. Right now, it don't look good, at least for me as a person looking at wrestling. But I'm not going to sit here and say like all of it wasn't good. It's just some moments just fall on deaf ears. But with that said, it's like work in progress. Let's see what happens.
See, I agree and disagree at the same time, Wale, because I think Triple H kind of walked into the business, taking over creative. when Vince the business in a really bad situation, like with Roman Reigns, 1,000 something days as to take as a champion. You know, that was a pain in the ass trying to figure out how to get the belt off him. And that was the biggest problem. One of the biggest problems he faced. You disagree?
I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong about that because a lot of people were very pissed off about you like the fans were really very angry with that whole run in more cases than not, because it's like every single time of every single story is like someone intervened, this or that, and then I ain't gonna lie, if you really look at Roman in the midst when he's really getting beat down and taken down, in most cases they're not. It just seems like he's so fleshed out that it's like he can't even maintain, and that's the worst thing. Like you looking at the guy and you're like, he can't even maintain. Like, don't get me wrong, I understand like the levels of pressure that's being put on him is something, but just in general, knowing what you got going on, it just don't seem like you can maintain. And then how they work these stories of you winning, and then it's like someone cheating and helping you out. It just means like, man, people love the guy, but it's like, this ain't it, bro. This ain't it. Not how you supposed to be talking. Oh, you supposed to be the big dog. Roman Reigns. When you came like this, it was like, yeah, it's like they're doing you big, but that big ain't as big as most other people. If I had to be real with it, like you can have the long title reign. People, let's be honest. There's some people right now that has long title reigns with the title, and personally, when you look at what they really did within that time frame, they did jack piss. Those title reigns are now looking garbage every day. That's another thing that's really being hurtful in the wrestling business, because the titles are now being like hot potato, and you're just tossing it around with no value.
And you have a good point. Like they what title? Which one was it? It was a recent title. They did it on not on pay-per-view. They did I think a Raw or SmackDown. It changed hands on a regular TV. It wasn't a big thing anymore.
You're talking about like which title?
I think it was the I don't remember. I don't want to say because I don't remember which title it was.
I mean, some titles be on regular shows, but I mean that's use case. I mean, if you're talking about the big titles like the World Heavyweight and the WWE Unified title, then yeah, I think you're talking about the heavyweight title, because that was moved around a couple of times on regular shows.
Yeah.
If I'm not
But
mistaken.
guys, I want to
not heavy, but few. Go ahead, Paul.
Go ahead, Paul.
You're talking about, and again, I haven't watched wrestling enough to know about Roman's title reign. I didn't know if it was that long or trying to hold on to, but isn't that seems to be the pattern with WWE, where they go with certain themes for just long periods of time, maybe longer than it should. Like, I mean, how many times has Brock Lesnar made a comeback, so to speak?
Oh God, don't get me started.
I mean, it's you keep recycling this old talent, or even with Undertaker with his Hell in a Cell.
Well,
how long did that go on? Should that have ended maybe 10 years before it did, but it just kind of went on. And when it did end, people weren't happy with it because it ended for whatever reason. But you could clearly tell he wasn't the same guy anymore. I mean, it kind of, stretched credulity, which I know, everyone's woke now and everybody, understands what wrestling is. But again, you still want to be enamored in the experience. And you can clearly see when guys are past their prime, when they're just extending stuff because they're going to the well one too many times, and not thinking outside the box, not building up new stars. But for a long time, it was Undertaker, Brock Lesnar, and Roman, who were basically at the top of the company for an extended period of time.
Well, yeah.
So it just seems like that's been a pattern with going, you just go with, or John Cena for that matter. It's like once Vince gets these guys on, it's like the creativity almost stopped to an extent.
Right. So first and foremost, Eric, sorry about that. I know you was asking a question. These days, I believe he's babyface. I mean, he worked both good in that and heels and babyface. But yeah, I think his best time was being a heel. But to go back to what you're saying, Paul, and I think that's like very much the confliction because even with wrestling fans, they're like, well, wait, well, why this person not getting pushed? Why this person not getting pushed? But it's like, granted, you may hope and dream that certain people get pushed, which builds new content, right? But the problem is, it's just that quote unquote it factor about that wrestler. It's like, granted, there's a lot of times people were raving Rusev, but Rusev never got the made big title push. Why not? I don't know. He had the look, he had the image, so why not? Uh, so that was sort of very interesting overall. Why he never just reached higher than what it was.
Even
Same thing
recently,
with Cesaro, another character. People were raging on him, but never touched the grass ring to touch the world title. Why not? Again, there's a it thing with that overall. But people were so behind those wrestlers to be those world champions. So why not put them over? But to go back to the main people that you were talking about, right? And that's sort of a thing is like, this is where the idea of, is the next person that they're challenging, could they even hold the title to where they want to do it? Because again, here's my thing, right? Roman was even the main person they had in mind back then to being the world champion the way he was. For example, Vince wanted to go with Big E. He was ready and willing to put him over big time.
Oh, I remember that.
And guess what? Who stopped him? Triple H. Triple H fight tooth and nails to put Roman over. Look what you have today. You have Roman
I thought
Reigns.
it was because his neck injury too.
No, it was before the neck injury. It was when Roman was started getting pushed. That's when the neck injury happened. But literally, Big E was supposed to be the guy. He was supposed to be the new front runner. He had the look, the image. He definitely had the crowd behind him. What more do you need to know? He had it. But lo and behold, he got out of it. He was replaced. Why? Because of Roman Reigns. And the thing is, people, here and there had their feelings about Roman. But the thing is, let's be honest here. If you look at everything that has transpired with that alone, just knowing that information, that Vince was willing to go with Big E, would Big E have the neck injury? Maybe he wouldn't. But then you put in Roman, knowing Roman has his illness, but you're putting him over. You're giving him this long title reign, and it's it's the what I like to call the Floyd Mayweather effect, right? You hate the person that got the title, but guess what? You know what's crazy? The moment he lost and people were not loving what Cody was delivering, they wanted Roman Reigns. They were screaming for Roman.
I remember
And
this actually.
you literally were booing him. And don't get me wrong, I was doing the same thing. Because again, I didn't love like how they were doing it with the whole thing. It's like, again, I get it. There's moments like, it's gonna look cheeky one moment here and there, but it's like, come on, dog. Like, does it look like he always look like he's gonna just look like he's on the tipping edge of losing, and then it's like, oh, and he's like he's fading and just being done, and then it's like, oop, he just magically just wins because that small interference, that one move, hit the spear, call it a day. I'm like, okay, you know what? Like, come on, like I've seen better. Respectfully, I've seen better. I have, even in the worst conditions of looking like you were caught up. But when we talk about like the way Roman looked, like it wasn't even seemingly like he was the great, like he was in a opportunistic, moment. He was just, I'm gonna catch you slipping. That's all there is to it. You paid attention to everybody else. You didn't pay attention to me. You didn't handle business. Okay, I handle it. God, bye. And that's the thing. And right, but don't get me wrong. I'm not like, again, it wasn't ultimately great, but it doesn't mean it was ultimately trash. It was like, hey, you let it be for what it is. Especially for how they was trying to sell the story of, things behind Roman. So I get it in totality. I just think when it comes to certain stories, because even with Undertaker, I know a lot of people will say, well, Undertaker probably should have lost way before, up until the point that he had to deal with Brock. But it's like everyone knew the history behind that. So it was going to happen. And the fact that it was still a bombshell to where you see people in the audience like they were shot like this could never happen. This couldn't happen. No way this can happen. Like, but it can happen, and it did. Y'all think this was gonna happen? Like, really?
Well, and that's my thing with the audience. I mean, like you can look at the performer, you can look at him.
No,
it's like you're over the hill. I mean, it's
well,
like
no, but Paul, I'm saying like it's easy to just look at it and know. But I'm saying like even from a sense of a fan, like take your like put yourself in blind eyes, right, and just look at it. In that moment, you never think Undertaker was gonna just lose, especially when it comes to WrestleMania. This is when he's immortal. Out of all places, because think about it. The reason why it makes sense that he had it that long, because you're doing it, you're really truly being quote unquote immortalized in this one moment. WrestleMania is that moment. No matter what other moments you had in other events, in other pay-per-views, WrestleMania is the moment where you're pretty much a god. And you can't break Undertaker no matter what the F you do. But that was the different scenario.
Mm.
And I think
I remember
understanding those moments, that what made it sort of like popular, but in the sense like, and again, if you watch it, you've been like, it was obvious he was going to lose. But the problem is, again, because that moment, that timing is always so significant with Undertaker, no one didn't think it was going to be like that. More likely so, people thought he would lose in a different pay-per-view and walk away. Not the case.
So I remember seeing the guy who said, just say yes, sir. His eyes exploded on his face. I don't have a problem with him losing his streak. I'm sorry?
No, right. I'm saying, yeah, that's the moment right there. Because that moment is televised.
But I had a problem who he lost his streak to. I think somebody else could have used it better. I think it was a bad call on Vince.
Look, if you're speaking from a sense of building, yes, I can understand that in totality. The problem is, though, and this is why I say it's sort of tough, because I say it like this. When you saw it with John Cena and they did, Undertaker and John Cena, that was a throwaway. That was a complete throwaway.
Was an awful match. I mean,
see what I'm saying? A complete throwaway. You did all that promotion, everything, but you knew the backdrop history. But why, with all the backdrop history, Undertaker acknowledged him with a handshake, saying pretty much signaling he's next up and everything else. And now when you come to that point, that's what we get. You get. That's it. Like, okay, you really? This is what we doing? Okay. No, that was just sickening. That was a complete throwaway. That was trash. And when you think about that, like, okay, let's take that away from history. So, yeah, because no, that was the most worstest thing they could have ever done right there, especially in that taste value. Like, that was just horrible. That is under Vince, and Vince allowed that to happen. Like, that's sad. But again, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, when you look at it, in a lot of cases, in a lot of ways, even behind that time, Undertaker wasn't even ideal to even come for that. If they didn't make that story, that wouldn't even be a thing. That means Undertaker would have walked away at least from that point, not even touching that year's WrestleMania, to have a decent recovery. So that even tells you in itself, like, he wasn't even informed to even do a long match, because you would expect, Undertaker John Cena, this is supposed to be a long match. That was so dull. You literally probably broke your TV screen and be like, what the fuck did I pay for? That's how bad it is.
Anything I said multiple times, when he used to wrestle once a year, it took him a whole year to recover, prep his body, and get ready for a match. And he could not perform to the level he wanted to. And that's another reason when he stepped down, he did. He should have stepped down sooner, but Vince will not let him step down. That was the other problem.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing, and that's what I'm saying. Like, this is my thing, and this is the thing. It's not the fact that Vince wouldn't, it's the fact that Vince doesn't have no one to count on. Perfect example, what I'm going to say. John Cena. Notice one thing he says. The reason why I still keep coming back, because you can't do your job. He said that to Roman. And that was
Good
a
point.
choke moment for him. Because that tells me that the only reason John is around is because you couldn't just hold up your end of the bargain. That's messed up. That speaks. But the thing is, even to Roman, but that should speak up to a lot of other new wrestlers. Because if you can't hold up, if you cannot sell the market right now where we are in the new day, what's going to keep on happening to you? The same thing that happened to everybody else. Everyone got to use the rinse and repeat person. This is why you hear John Cena says, "When I retire, I'm not coming back out. This is it, done deal." And because honestly, it's sort of sad when you have to circle jerk older guys to come back in just to help younger guys get a bigger moment when you can't make moments with the guys that you're working with or the women that you're working with.
So I will say this, and we're gonna start ending this soon. Is I know Cena versus Rock, it let me down. I was nowhere near the height that it should have been.
Again, that's what I'm trying to say. There's moments that are throwaways. There's moments that are throwaways.
But
And that is under Vince.
the Rock versus Hogan, that was up to.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's younger and everything else. And granted, a lot of that had to be catered with The Rock doing that to help Hogan launch that to be what it is.
Yeah.
And that's been
all right,
starting
guys.
to put out. But one thing, just real quick, one thing I want to point out, as far as what we just said right here, because even right now with the climate of stories and how things play out, this is why I said like there is that point where, because I guess again, like Vince had a decent Malocious in the big middle, but even towards his end, like his end was sort of dropping. But one thing I will sit here and say, this is why a lot of these wrestlers are now like working out, because of course, rumors, which more likely not rumors, Brock is about to be out by I think somewhere around SummerSlam or so. So he's about to be out soon. AJ is about to be out. So even though I'm pretty sure he's still good to go regardless. But it's like a lot of the bigger names are out, and it's like one thing you have to notice is, and I've seen this even with football, the new era is slowly taking over because someone has to collect these checks. And I'm telling you right now, the new era looks way more competitive than it does. Like I ain't gonna lie, I've seen some retapes, and I'm gonna conflict this with football a little bit. I've seen some retapes looking at football amongst these younger guns, and I'm like, this is probably more entertaining than I've ever seen it in a good time. It made me sit back and be like, how did this happen? Because when you think about,
I get what you're saying, because I heard AJ, he said himself, he doesn't want to wrestle past this year. This is gonna be his last year.
Well, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Brock, that's the first I'm hearing about anything about Brock.
No, yeah, it's been said for a good minute. But I think even John throw that nugget out there. But again, it's like, because even with AJ, it's more about because he want to go back to family too and all this. But it's like right now, for most people as fans, especially with AJ, a lot of people really want to see him do some classical stuff before he walks away. And this is why people are very butt sour about him dealing with Gunther, because this whole Gunther trope, I'm going to beat all the famous guys, and I'm going to be the guy that keeps beating them all. I'm like...
Yeah, can someone explain, again, I don't watch a lot, but can someone explain what the appeal of Gunther is? I mean...
So, right now, the appeal of Gunther, let's put it like this. He's pretty much the new Brock, but just bully Brock. Like, he's the one bullying, taking over. He's standing over people. He's the guy that looks at you. You neither are competition that's worthy, or you need a competition that just gets stepped on. And he's been pretty much that guy being promoted like, I'm the guy that's going to just punch you and show you where you stand. But honestly, like ever since he lost the title, it's been to a point where he's sort of just been a guy that's looking like he's schizo. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's moments where he's looking at stuff like he's looking at
he's tall, but he doesn't have a lot of physicality, at least from what I'm seeing. He's tall, but he's not, to look at.
Yeah, I mean, to what you may say, but yeah, I mean, he definitely has physicality, because I don't know if you've seen his chops, but his chops are lethal. His chops are very lethal. I'm talking about your chest's gonna bleed, especially if you got a weak chest. He has that for you. He has that for you. So he's definitely brute, especially since he cut a lot of weight since his time in NXT.
Personally, well, to be honest with you, like I respect what you're saying. I don't see the appeal personally to Gunther. I think he's just overhyped, to be honest with you. That's my personal opinion.
I mean, again, the way how they sell him, maybe that may be the thing for you. I don't know. Again, you have to be very keen on why you don't feel like that. But personally, I do see the hype. I do see the visual with Gunther. But the thing is, though, lately, yeah, I will agree with you. Yeah, that shit has sold. That shit has sold because it's not the same. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So
but that's
no, I think the reason I say that about Gunther is I think they use him so much. I got to the point like I'm just tired of seeing him.
But see, that's what I'm saying. The idea of wrestling has been tainted one way or another. That's why I'm like, this is what I'm saying. The idea of just shooting up stars, and this is, I think, this is the biggest problem with WWE is like, you have all these stars, but when it comes time to actually use them or give them that promotion to be that star, you are literally budget cutting someone else because of someone else you want to prop. And in that timing of doing that, the other wrestlers are saying to themselves, do I really want to keep staying here? Knowing that I got way more in me, way more, knowing I proved myself outside of this before I got here. And now you're just looking at me as a little man? Because perfect example of this is Ricochet. Ricochet before WWE, Lucha Underground, Prince Puma. He showed you he was the one. And you throw him across the wayside when he got there. He, like, granted, you gave him titles, yes, but to the point that you should have launched him as a main title guy, it sort of just felt like at that point, like I said, he took that gamble and he ran with it. And
look at that Thomas, whatever his name is. We were talking about on the phone last night from NXT, who's in the main roster now. He's leaving.
Oh, you're talking about Tama? Yeah, I know you're talking about. Yeah.
He did a great run in NXT. He blew the water. Everybody loved him there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about loving him or hating him, but I'm saying he did a great job there. His character and everything. And when he went to a main roster, they didn't know what the fuck to do with the guy.
But that's my thing. That's what a lot of people. That's my thing. And again, so if you look around, that's what a lot of people. A lot of people came up, and now you're looking at them like, "What the hell is this?" Or, you know, why they don't got the main title? Why are they not running it up?
Yeah,
think about it.
Yeah, but can I ask you guys? I know we're trying to wrap up the show, but like I said, I'm
newbie.
Yeah, maybe on a percentage basis.
Mm-hmm.
How much does the actual wrestling match matter to you as a wrestling fan versus storyline versus promo versus character or what have you? Because again, I'm more a match guy. You know, some of the greatest matches I think I've ever seen was I think when Daniel Bryan fought Kofi Kingston for the title. I mean, I thought that was great. When the Japanese guy fought AJ Styles a few years ago, what's his name? What's the guy from Japan? The strong style guy. Shinsuke Nakamura versus AJ for WrestleMania. I mean, that was a great match. I mean, when Flair, on the female side, when Flair fought the Goth, like I said, I'm losing.
You're talking about Rhea Ripley.
Great. I mean, you're engaged in the match itself. I mean, the build up and all that kind of stuff is great, but to have a great match, as we said earlier, you've had other WrestleMania matches that didn't live up. Undertaker versus Cena, awful. I mean, it just really is like, especially back if you were paying for that, it was like, you didn't get your money's worth there. But how much does that matter? Because if you go back to, again, wrestling, that's what a lot of it was about. It was about the best or the talent coming to the area, challenging the champion. It was more given in an athletic prowess. Now, again, I know, McMahon took it to more the entertainment route and the storylines and whatnot matter a bit more. And then a lot of that obviously got copied by NWA/WCW back in the day, but as far as like the great matches, does that even matter to the modern wrestling fan as much as, because you were talking about storylines earlier, is it so if you were to put a percentage on it, how would you get, because quite frankly, I could care less if these guys can talk, can even speak English, it doesn't matter to me. You put on a great match, and have the theatrics in the match itself, I'm in, but what say you guys, since you guys are closer to it than I am at this point?
Well, okay, so I'm gonna speak on this. So for me, if you're talking about just wrestling, just to wrestle, I mean, at that point, I have to start asking myself: is this wrestling on the competitive on the competitive side of UFC, or this is wrestling as far as we're talking about in wrestling as far as
just in terms of the
well, yeah, no, but I'm just answering the way I'm saying it, because because if we're talking about wrestling entertainment, then ultimately, all in all, I say it's very important. How far important? I say 80% at this point, because again, these moments, they matter. They will be the moments that will revolutionize people's mindsets for the rest of their lives. I think if you told me today, like, okay, what was the most competitive wrestling match without story, without anything that you've seen that was so great? I mean, if you're talking about just for the look of it, then yeah, I can tell you some for sure. But ultimately, would I say that without the story? No. Because again, it's like, perfect example. I can talk about the great wrestling match between Brock and Kurt, two greatest wrestling technicians. But ultimately, it's all good. But I say that Brock with Eddie, knowing that was a mixed match, the story made it way more better in how that all implicated altogether in him winning the title. So for me, I put that way over that. But again, so if we're saying in entertainment, right? Wrestling with entertainment, Brock and Eddie's a good example of that. But if you're talking about pure wrestling, then Brock and Kurt is the perfect recipient of that. Or, Bret Hart with whoever you thought of that was a great opponent. That was another good representation of that. Right? Female wrestling. There's pretty much, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I forgot her name already, but Charlotte Flair with, for right now, I'll say with Becky Lynch. I want to say a different name, but right now Becky Lynch. So there's definitely wrestling matches, if I just look at it for wrestling, that are there. But ultimately, all in all, I wouldn't even remember those without really thinking about the story that came along with it. Because I think you can't, at this point, you can't take it away. And I think that's really the thing that really sells wrestling entertainment. But again, now you want to also put it on this standpoint as well. Do you focus more so on the wrestling? Do you do on the story/entertainment side? I would say yes, I do focus on wrestling more than I focus on the entertainment side. For simply enough, there are certain entertainment points that were just not needed, but they did it just because it was filler, and that's fine. But ultimately, I can do without it because I wouldn't remember it. I wouldn't care for it. But yeah, that's how I look at that.
Pete?
I think it's a mixture of 50-50. I think you need a good story with a good match. It's like like a marriage almost. If you don't have the 50-50, and like you have to invest me into the match with the storyline. Once I get invested and the match is good, yeah, I can accept that. There are a bunch of good matches out there. I'll go back to one of my favorite matches. Again, I know I'm a little biased because I'm a huge fan of Hogan back in the day and Rock, but that match got me invested. The way The Rock called out The Rock, the storyline was there. Eddie Guerrero, how many matches, he got me invested because of the story with JBL, him going back and forth with him. He had me invested. I'm not saying it was his best match ever, but the match was good because he had me invested. Once you get invested, I think any match can be good if you have the right chemistry with your opponent. That's my personal opinion.
I got you. I got you. Yeah, I guess I might be more on the wrestling side. Like I know a few years ago I got into Ring of Honor. Um, and that style of wrestling, it borrowed a little bit from the Japanese style, but it was a lot of it was mat wrestling. A lot of it was very physical and very athletic. And some of the best wrestling matches that I ever saw, even though they didn't do a whole lot of character build up or rivalry. Like if you watch Ring of Honor, Michael Elgin versus Davey Richards, the matches they used to have in Ring of Honor back then. I mean, just top level. I mean,
Right.
just
I mean,
incredible.
actually,
And to me, that I can certain if you were going to give me a choice, I'd say give me that versus building a storyline up for 3 or 4 months and then having a disappointing finish at whether it be WrestleMania or SummerSlam or or some event like that. If you can pull it off, then great. But it just seems like today there's so much emphasis on these long storylines versus just getting the two baddest dudes in wrestling and just kind of getting them into the ring and selling it.
right.
And that
So
to me that's the difference.
yeah, just to add this quick one, I know we got to try to go, but one of the biggest, like for instance, perfect thing what you said, right? Because for me, when I want to really watch wrestling, I definitely had to watch something outside WWE to really watch wrestling, not the entertainment factor that's added on. Not saying that that's not needed or anything, but I'm saying like just a little bit more surreal action. And TNA for me at that time was the surreal action I pivot to, excluding from WWE, where I was getting that wrestling. Because AJ Style era wrestling, AJ Style of TNA, I'll
One
never
of the
forget it.
best.
I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. I'm so thankful that that Vince let him go and let him and walk, and he end up there because the moment I got over there and watched that bad boy, it was beautiful. Especially knowing you had Sting there and all other things, but to know you had Sting, Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, and just the evolution of what the cruiserweight division was in WWE, which now is even heavier and more dominant in TNA with the X division. It was just a masterpiece. It was a beautiful masterpiece, and they definitely re-engineer what the cruiserweight division looks like and what it should look like, and it was literally at peak performance to a point that you literally could eventually trade in the title just to get a world title match if you hold the title long enough within a year, which is massive. And that was big props. So for me, looking at that, it was like next level stuff for me.
Mhm.
As far as just looking at like more wrestling, less entertainment.
Mhm.
Because and when I say less entertainment, I'm talking about just less of the goofiness that was wrapped around it.
Yeah.
Granted, definitely TNA had their goofy moments and even their terrible moments. But when it was good, when it was riding high, when it was riding on AJ's back for most of it, for a good portion, not all of it, but for a good portion, it was something else for me. Eric, yes, he was. And that's my thing. A lot of people in TNA were so good in that time. Like a lot of people there was so good to the fact that they didn't get to the level of what you would think of a WWE standard is. Those guys were one of those nonsensical true wrestlers that will show you their talent and it's on a high level, regardless big title or no big title.
Mhm.
You knew like they were the ones the moment you saw them in there. So it was just beautiful, man. It was beautiful in those times. And that's what I'm saying. Like that, as far as moments, even when it comes to just looking at just wrestling, moments that really made you be like, gosh, damn, that's good. That was what it was for me. And you just can't get them back because it's just like again, I understand trying to reinvent the wheel, but it's like sometimes if it ain't dead, don't let it die. Like, just I know it's gonna be tricky to work it in, but work in what made them who they are.
Mhm.
Because that's who they are. And everyone loves that about them. They don't want
Mhm.
that to change. They want that to stay true. So it just seems like to me with WWE like that's what I'm saying. Everyone has a different wrestling system. And that's why I think, and this is the hard choice about wrestling these days as well for a lot of the wrestlers, because you go to a different wrestling corporation, but everyone has a different wrestling system, how they do things. And because of that, that system sort of destroys you in the midst of that. Perfect example that I'm going to use here. Hold on. I got to find his. Okay, the guy that be with Kofi Kingston. Guy's name right now. Hold on. Give me a moment. Hold on. Give me a moment, because I gotta get this guy. Okay, Xavier Woods. Sorry about that.
No,
Xavier Woods. He's the candidate I'm talking about, right? In TNA, he was Consequences Creed. He was I think most people would say he's way more better in TNA than he was in WWE. And for the simple fact, it's just how he was coming off, how he was moving, and everything else. It just seems like his character there was just way more better over there than it is in WWE. And I think honestly, if too much of the Titan that hold the grasp ring of WWE didn't hold so much of the top echelons to where other wrestling corporations were as close to being dominant, or just close to being dominant in a way where the guys were satisfied where they were at, especially with knowing that they're getting their decent checks to feed their family and everything, I think he would have never left TNA. I think he would have been TNA, eventually been a champion with some decent credibility, and would be way more better off. But again, that's the nature of wrestling,
All right, I'm guys, just thinking ending. All right,
yeah, I know.
Because I gotta be at work at 4:00 tomorrow because of a storm coming in.
Well, you started it. So.
Eric, that is for sure. That is, man. What we call R-Truth is a fraud. Ron Killings was that.
All I'm saying is we need to have two shows. Or if you guys are gonna chop it up, and I'll try to be a part of the conversation. Two shows you have to have. One, as far as from a visual experience, the greatest matches you've ever seen, or rivalries that you've ever seen. Just forget I don't want to hear about storyline or whatnot. I'm talking about the ring product. You can watch the match. You got up and cheered at the end of it. You had tears in your eyes at the end. One of the greatest matches you've ever seen. So we need to have like all-time greatest matches. And second, from what Eric was saying, you may want to have a show as far as the best wrestlers that never made it to WWE. Because especially when you talk about guys like Jay Lethal and those guys, I don't think Jay Lethal ever had was in WWE.
No, he wasn't, but he was definitely phenomenal in TNA.
That's what I'm saying. So maybe a ranking of those guys, the biggest, because even with those promotions, it's still like WWE was still considered like the top, or at least you want to have at least a run there saying, okay, you made it to the top promotion in the world. And there have been a lot of great wrestlers that never had that run. Jay Lethal certainly being one. Dutt, I think, was mentioned earlier. Not even with the X division in WWE. So that might be a show worth having. Also, the greatest wrestlers, but they never made their way to Vince. But they were still great in themselves outside of that echo. The echosphere there. So
yeah. But
I think me and Walik will discuss that and we'll figure out that. Send me the text and I'll look at that. All right, guys. This was the first episode of Wrestling Talk with a Spartan. My co-host will be Wally moving forward. Once in a while, if Mr. President wants to jump in, he's welcome to. And whoever else wants to join the conversation. Last words, guys, before we go?
Nope.
No. Wally, anything else?
Simple. My thing is with wrestling where it's at right now. My only biggest thing is these wrestling corporations just make it as big as possible, because if you sacrifice yourself, let alone your career, just to reach what you think is the pinnacle, aka WWE, this is literally the landfill of where you sort of denounce your character for what you are. Because honestly, I just believe like most people, they don't need to be in WWE to be the greatest wrestler to ever did it. I really don't. I think now, granted, the matches with certain people, that's a whole nother topic, but definitely you don't need to make it to WWE to be the greatest known wrestler at all. Sting been gone from WWE, like try to stay away for a long time, and finally once he made it, look what happened. Look what happened. A waste.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that doesn't happen. Like guys were probably more bigger and more popular in other promotions, and their careers didn't flounder when they got to WWE. I'm not even saying that, but I'm just saying
No,
guys.
I know you're not saying that. I'm just saying in general, like.
And I'm saying I know that
people don't
happens. I recognize that, but I'm saying for the guys who never got there, certainly I can certainly appreciate that.
There are a bunch of wrestlers who didn't make it, but that's gonna be another topic for another show. Like I said, guys, Wally will be my co-host. Once in a while, Paul will jump in. This will be our news show on Friday nights, 9:30. Will be our start time, and we'll try to end it around this time usually. Except, guys, I am the Spartan. He is the president. He is my boy Wally. As always, stay fresh, stay safe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.